What is up, everybody, and welcome to M3 Wrestling. I'm Brandon.
I'm Andrew.
And today, we're going to have ourselves a little discussion. We're trying to figure out, we've had this discussion outside of here at work, and we were talking about our Mount Rushmore of wrestling. And, I've seen stuff all over Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, where everybody, fans and wrestlers alike, talk about their Mount Rushmore of wrestling. I figured, you know what? I've never really thought about. I thought about wrestlers in the past that maybe my top 5 or top 10, but then I think about Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Maybe you have to start thinking about something outside of just your favorites,
right?
So I think we're gonna do that. I think we're gonna see what we're gonna talk this out, and we're gonna see what our Mount Rushmore instead of just having something written down and ready to go. We're just gonna kind of discuss this and what we would do.
We're winging it.
We're
calling it in the ring.
Yeah, we're gonna call it in the ring. This is our first time. I don't know how well this is gonna go. We're pretty green.
This may be a 10-minute video.
Yeah, well, and that's fine. We probably don't want to make it too long. I'm sure people don't want to hear incessant rambling about stuff when we're just a couple of fans.
Yeah.
It's not like this is Undertaker saying, hey, this is my Mount Rushmore. But anyway, yeah, I've never really discussed it, so I thought it would be a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
I grew up with all these guys, and some of these guys are different than you grew up with. Which, you were still watching, around that time too, so you grew up with these guys too. But it's a little bit different because we got several years between us. And then it's going to be different from guys that grew up, like Taker and them grew up. And then you got guys now who are younger than us, who are growing up watching Cena and Randy get it on the ring every single night for 3 years.
Right.
In the late 2000s, early 10s.
Yeah.
And God, what a miserable time that was. Jesus Christ.
Putting the title on the Miz.
Putting the title on the Miz. And I do have more appreciation for Miz now than I did.
Yeah.
I gotta say that. But,
anyway. He just jobbed to Snoop Dogg at WrestleMania, so.
Yeah, he's a joke at this point, right? just entertainment. So, I think you've got to think about the Hogans and the Flairs, the Hogans, Flairs, the Savages, Piper, Dusty, Bruno, Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, Brett, Undertaker. I could grow up and I could say, growing up, and this is not going to be something that Andrew agrees with at all. I grew up absolutely loving Bill Goldberg, and I recognize that the man is not. He is a Hall of Famer, and I don't care what anybody says. I think he's a Hall of Famer. But he had his place, and it's not where the Austins were. It's not where the Hogans were. It's not where. So, how would you dictate who between all of those guys? Because if you ask me any given time, you say, "Hey, what's your top 5?" I'd be like, "Well, I don't know. It's hard to say. I would say Stone Cold, The Rock, Steve Austin. I already said Steve Austin. Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Undertaker. These are guys that I grew up in the Attitude Era with, and right before and after. These guys are solid, but I don't think I can put them all in the top 5 or 6, or even in this case, the top 4, right?
Yeah, not when Hogan and Flair are sitting there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, how do we distinguish this? We can't distinguish this by favorites. We have to, we need to look at this in a different way. So, how would we do this? It would have to be not just in-ring ability, but mic ability. But not just mic ability, what they did for the business.
Yeah, how did they draw?
How did they draw? What era, the era they went in, and what they came up in, what they have to work with. There's all these factors. And I guess, like I said, I've never really sit here and just pondered over who the top 4 was.
Do you go farther back than that? Do you go...
Dude,
Bruno Sammartino, or do you go WWF and say we don't talk about Bruno?
Well, and that's hard for me too because I didn't grow up in that era,
right?
And I recognize Bruno for what he was. He was a hero. Yep. He was a hero to the Northeast,
to all the Italian Americans
for what, 10 or 12 years at least.
Yeah,
he was a champion for
60s to the late 70s almost when Superstar Billy Graham beat him. So
that's what I'm saying. And he was it combined 10 years or so of
possibly.
of
I know the first one was 7.
Yeah. So I mean, this is I can't to do this objectively, or can I do this objectively? I guess is another question. I think, and maybe you'll have to kind of just kind of let me know what you think about this. I don't know if I can go completely objectively. I don't know if I can include guys from eras that I didn't watch.
Right, like Luthez.
Yeah. It's going to be really hard to go back into the 50s and 60s for me and say, yeah, this is because for the wrestling business, for wrestling, they're huge.
Yeah, they were the traveling champions.
They were, so what came before all these other guys, it was something very special. It's something completely different than a lot of these guys don't even know they wouldn't know anything about that life now.
Right.
It's, when the business was still very, very real to a lot of people. I don't want to discredit anything that Lou did or any of them other, like Chief J. Strongbow even. Like, he was no Luthez, but, that's... Yeah. There's a lot of cool old legends from, like, the 60s that I just don't know if I could put on that list.
Yeah. It's like...
I think if you're going to drag anybody out of that era to put on Mount Rushmore, even objectively, it's got to be Bruno.
That or another one, fellow Missourian, Harley Race.
Harley Race, that's another one.
7-time or 8-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Man, that's another thing too. You're probably going to bring up some guys that I'm just not going to think off the top of my head. Harley Race,
definition of traveling champion.
Yeah.
And also the guy who made Ric Flair. Well, him and Dusty.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and see, and that, we were talking about that too. You would almost have to put Flair on that list. But was Flair without Dusty?
Yes.
Is Flair without Harley Race?
Really think about this. It's which way do you go?
Am I being too much of a mark? Am I just being retarded? I don't know. So, I mean, how would you break this down? Like I said, we're winging this crap. This is going to be a complete mess, probably of a video. But I think it's kind of cool to do free for all discussion on this every now and then. Something like this. I don't know, because there's no probably right or wrong answer.
Yeah, this is kind of sacrilegious for me to say, brother. But before Hogan, I don't know that they were running 3 arenas a night. I don't know how many they were running, but I know in the height of Hulkamania, they were running A, B, and C towns, sometimes D towns.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
God. I have to throw Hogan on there. As much as it pains me sometimes with some of the things. But, as a kid, at the height of Hulkamania in like the late 80s, I was there for that ride and enjoyed it.
So I think you have a good point there, and I think we have to probably exclude Bruno from this because as great as the territory days were, we probably need to start looking at this as who did what. I know they didn't have access to the complete country, but Bruno was just really, really hot in the Northeast. Could Bruno go to California or the Midwest or the South and do the same? It's hard to say. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, you don't want to discredit and say he couldn't, but, as an Italian-American hero and a really pushed WWF star.
I mean, if he goes to Southwest Championship Wrestling in San Antonio, you going to put a cowboy hat on him and try to get him over?
Yeah. I just don't know if that works. It's easy to get the Von Erichs over down there and get the Freebirds, but you can't. I just don't think you could. I think you could probably pull a lot of those guys out of their territory and put them in a different one, and it works.
Yeah.
I think the Von Erichs can be successful. They may not be as big in Texas or in anywhere else other than as they were in Texas, but they're still huge.
Yeah,
I think
they wrestled in Florida as heels.
Yeah, I think you could still pull them out of any situation and put them in something different, and they succeed. I think they get over. The Rock and Roll Express was the same way. Mm-hmm. Midnight Express would be the same way. I don't think that you can pull. Andre was that way. I just don't know if you could pull man, I mean, maybe that's stupid of me to say because you just don't know. But I think there's certain people you just don't pull and they don't do as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't think Bruno would have been top of the world.
Everywhere.
Everywhere, anywhere. You know what I mean? I don't think he would have been. The thing is no one, even as big as Rick was and as popular as Dusty was, no one came along and was as big as Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan wasn't just big in the WWF. He put, him and Vince put wrestling on the map for everyone ever, to the point where you have the music industry and the Hollywood getting involved. They made that business way bigger and put more eyes on everything, way more than anybody else could.
We talked about it, I think, in our very first wrestling podcast that we had. It's probably in episode 1. My first time I ever watched wrestling and knew I fell in love with it, and that's that Hogan-Andre match at the main event. Yeah. And 33 million people watched that match. Yeah. The most that's ever seen wrestling. Yeah. At one time, in one night. Yeah. And you gotta put him there.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree. I think we could both agree that Hulk Hogan is spot 1 on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
So now we get to spot 2. Do we put Andre there?
I personally do not.
I personally do not. And I think Andre is great, but you always have somebody that he's one of those guys, he's the spectacle, he's the one that
he's the attraction.
He's the attraction. You have to topple the big heel, right? Or whatever. Or even if he's a face, he's still the attraction. He's still not as big as Hulk Hogan. Yeah. And so you don't put Andre there.
I think if you have a big card, you hire Andre to pad the card,
right?
To be like, oh yeah, he's going to be there too. Let's fork out some money for that.
Yeah.
I think that's. Besides that, what's your favorite Andre the Giant match?
I don't have I don't like. There's not, and this may be unfair because I haven't watched a lot of his really old stuff. If how much of that's available, I don't know.
He could move when he was younger.
Yeah, and I've heard that. I haven't personally seen it. I have no question probably that he did. But even still, I don't.
Yeah.
But you also know how I feel about big men.
Yeah.
Like, I love Andre, and I like some big men, but most of them I just think they're just guys to topple. Like, they're just attractions. Yeah. They're just real, like they do better in a short-lived run. They don't need to be on TV every night because they're not going to produce exciting matches, and they're not going to draw you money outside of that.
You're going to overexpose
them because if you put them in a match every night with even the same person, it's going to be boring. If you put them in different matches with different people, it's too much because they're going to realize real quick, oh, this guy can only literally do one or two things.
Yeah.
And I'm getting kind of sick because especially when you have people like Savage and Ricky Steamboat.
Yes.
In the undercard, you're like, you see a whole nother world, and you're like, I don't need to see this at all, really. And that's just how I am. I really don't want to see it ever again.
This was fine for 5 minutes this time.
Yeah. We did this with Andre. We've done this with Big Show. We've done this with a few other guys. Yeah. I think I've seen all I need to see.
Not discrediting Andre. He's just not on either.
I love Andre. It's just, we just have to talk about the facts. So do we put? I think we have to exclude him. I think we have to exclude Harley. Because I think Harley's more of a territorial guy, too. I think Harley's great. Man, so good. Such a good heel.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to pick... So if you have to pick one of the three, between him, Dusty, or Flair, who do you pick?
As a traveling champion?
Who do you pick? It's Flair.
It's Flair.
It's
got to be.
It's Flair, and there's too many other guys that we have to get to talk about. And I mean, some of these guys can be bumped off, but for now, I can't put Dusty on there.
Yeah,
and I know we said with Dusty, Flair wouldn't be anything without Dusty, probably. Well, and that's not necessarily true, but
Dusty
elevated him a lot. And Dusty's great in his own right. But Ric Flair's Ric Flair, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. I think that's when you have to add in that other thing, which Dusty had the talk, but Flair had something about him. It was a little bit more.
Yeah, he had a presence.
Yeah,
just a presence. And not only that, he would go for an hour every night. In the territory days, you didn't want your top guy losing. You're paying for Flair to come in, but you didn't want your top guy losing face to Ric Flair. No. So he had to go an hour every single night.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to me, it's a no-brainer that Ric Flair would be. And not just that, the money he drew, the money he made for Jim Crockett back in those days to afford those Lear jets and everything.
The alligators.
The alligators.
So we'll say for now, spot 2 goes to Ric Flair. And I think you have to exclude Andre, Harley, and Dusty.
And this is where it gets hard.
This is when it starts to get hard. So you get into the next era, and you've got your... Which, that's kind of the Piper. I can't put Piper up there. I know I'm going to leave a few people out and not think of them because there's too many.
And I like Bret, but...
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say.
The business was down when Bret was champion. He put on some great matches, but you look... And the business was going down with Hogan as champion at that time.
Yes.
But you look what Bret did for the business. Yeah, the work rate was great, but nobody was coming out to see it.
No, and do we count that against him because the business was so bad, or do we, you know what I mean? Like, do we not? Because business has never been bigger, other than when it was the rock and roll era, was it?
Yeah,
I mean,
at least in that case, put Roman Reigns on there right now.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Acknowledge him, Brandon.
I know some people probably would. Yeah, man, I really want to put Bret on there, but I almost wonder if this is where like his longevity and his
could be
in-ring work, his technical skills maybe surpass that, and put him on the list. Does that make sense?
Right.
You know, like because there's things that outweigh, like Hogan. With Hogan just being the face and being the hero, the big leg drop, the music, the charisma, I think just the character as a whole, I think you put him on the list because of just the time era and the drawing, what he is. But on the exact opposite end, you don't have good business here, but you have one of the best wrestlers, bar none, of all time. He never hurt anybody. Yeah. No one really hurt him. He was how some of these guys are safe workers. Flair didn't get hurt. He ran an hour every night.
Right.
This dude he wrestled an hour. Even guys like today, like Ziggler or Miz, who wrestle a specific style, and they don't get hurt, and they don't hurt people. It's safer. But Bret was like the peak of that because he actually made it look like real.
Legitimate.
He made yeah. I think Miz is a little too soft.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he would hate that. But
Bret is one of those for me. I don't think I put him on the Mount Rushmore, but I think he's right on the cusp.
Yeah.
Like I want to put him on there. I just can't quite do it.
So do you put Shawn there?
No.
Because he didn't. I don't know. I feel like he's comparable in draw. Maybe not. I could be wrong. I'd look at the numbers.
To Bret.
Yeah. As far as drawing goes.
I think maybe if Shawn's not hurt those, 3 or 4 years that he's out.
Yeah.
And has a chance during that Attitude Era.
Oh my gosh.
To prove he belongs. Imagine some of the matches he'd have had.
Well, yeah, because the thing is no one. There were some good matches around that area, but the matches took the back seat to the story and to the other stuff. So, you would actually had some decent matches thrown into the Attitude Era, which would have made Attitude Era even bigger.
Yeah.
Possibly. Of course, I don't know if he could have been the defending champion. I think he would have had to be the one chasing after it. But I think this is another topic for another day because this is another rabbit hole. But if Shawn Michaels sticks around, what happens with Steve Austin? Because Steve Austin is on this trajectory of being this mega star. And you're talking the heights of Hogan, if not bigger.
I think he's still that mega star. I don't think Shawn Michaels stops that.
Yeah, maybe not. maybe you wouldn't have as many title runs with him. I don't know, or maybe he's always just chasing it.
I think Brett and
because you needed heel. He would have to be a heel, I guess, then, and working Steve Austin.
Right.
He would have to remain the heel.
Yeah.
With DX, or even outside of DX, he'd have to remain heel.
Yeah. I think when we're talking Brett and Shawn, you kind of get into a name that you said earlier is like the Ricky Steamboats and like that, the guys who can really work and can really go, but didn't really get the chance to draw a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I put them there. I kind of put Randy Savage in that too.
Yeah.
Which I want to put him on this. I like all four of those guys, but I don't know if I can do it.
Okay, so the next up would have to be the era of Taker and Triple H. The Rock, Steve Austin.
And we just said one of those
Mick
names
Foley.
that I think goes on there.
I 100% have to put Steve Austin on this list.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against The Rock, because The Rock almost reached the same height.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and maybe some people would argue he did hit that height. Maybe I don't know if I would hit. I don't know if he'd hit bigger. But the thing is, when Austin was out, he was the only thing. Yeah. So he was huge. I don't know.
You could look at it like he's bigger than Austin. Look at him now.
Well, that's true.
But
that's outside of the wrestling
business.
That's
outside of wrestling. Inside of wrestling, I don't think The Rock is who he is without Stone Cold Steve Austin there.
I agree.
You know, WrestleMania.
I think The Rock is, like you said, it's like he's on the cusp.
Yeah.
I think he's right there who just misses the mark, but Steve Austin, just like Bret Hart made Steve Austin in a way, and so many other people did too, I think he made The Rock.
Yeah.
And I think The Rock wouldn't be there without him to that level. And if he wouldn't have got hurt, you know how much would have Rock got?
Yeah.
Without being heel.
If Austin's not hurt, he's wrestling clear into what? 07, 08, somewhere like that.
Oh, I guarantee it. He would at least wrestled into 05, 6 for sure.
Cena and Austin.
He would. I think you would have seen. I think you would have seen a Cena Austin. I think you would have seen more with him and Brock. I think you would have probably got a Hogan match at the decline, like kind of like Shawn did with Hogan. Yeah. I think you would have got a last Hogan match. I think maybe you definitely would have caught that early era. Batista and Cena and them guys for sure.
Yeah,
more matches with Triple H and Shawn. Because Shawn came back. So I don't know. I think you're right. I think Steve Austin has to go on that list. Yeah, and Triple H has always been the guy that he's a great in-ring presence, but he's always the guy that the other guy, how did Cornette word that? Like he wasn't the one drawing money. He was always working with the guy who drew money.
Yeah,
basically. And nothing against Triple H, because he is one of the best I've ever seen in the ring as far as psychology and what he does. And he's been a great heel. Like he made me hate him for years.
Right.
But yeah, I think he's the guy that you throw in there. So, do you put Taker in there? This is probably the hardest thing for me.
The last spot?
The last spot. Because, okay, so let's just go ahead and combine current to, let's say 03 to now, right? So you've got Randy Orton, you got Cena, we'll put Roman. Yeah.
That hurt, didn't it?
Dude, I don't know. I'll talk about Roman here in a minute. So let's just say Roman. Randy Orton, Cena, Taker. We're not putting Kane in there. He's one of those dudes that's kind of like Rock and Triple H. He's in Mankind. Mick Foley's great. I just don't think.
No.
He's kind of a niche thing. I feel like he's more niche.
Yeah.
Who else? That's it. I mean, you got Batista and some of those guys. Rey, Mysterio. I think they're all great in their own right. But you got to talk about big stars. Cena and Orton carried the company for 2 or 3 years there when things got... And Shawn and Taker were still kind of there doing their own thing, but they were the ones kind of doing the big stuff for 2, 3, 4 years. I think you put Cena ahead of Orton.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Just because he was such a big... He's the modern era Hulk Hogan. Roman's had it 1,000 days as the time of this recording, a little over 1,000 days. He's good. He's really come into his own finally. They were trying to force feed him down everybody's throats for
still got that terrible finisher.
5 or 6 years. He still has this stupid Superman punch that no one on this planet likes or believes. I don't think I could put Roman up there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I only even talked about it because of the current thing going on. Like the bloodline is one of the better things to happen in wrestling in a decade or half a decade anyway. But come on, like there's nothing been happening in the last decade. Let's be real. Yeah. There might be 2 or 3 things, but no ongoing storyline has. No, we'll just stop it right there. So no Roman. So you have to go back to Cena or Taker. And that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Maybe. Or go back to one of the ones right on the cusp.
Did I say Orton? Or
yeah.
So you got Brett, Shawn, The Rock, Triple H, Cena, Orton, Taker,
Bob Backlund.
Jesus Christ. Jim Duggan, Hacksaw, Jim Duggan, Hacksaw Butch Reed.
Yeah. No joke. Have you seen his Mid-South stuff?
Oh yeah, it's great, dude. It's so great.
He was the man,
dude. It was so great.
Love me some Hacksaw Butch Reed.
Yeah, I actually thought it was Ron Simmons.
Oh yeah.
The first time I saw him, like, where's Ron? Is that right? But then Ron Simmons came out. I'm like, oh no, it's Butch Reed and Ron Simmons. Like, no, that's 2 different dudes. Because I mean, and it was like dark, and we had the TV on, like we were watching it going to bed, and we had it like on a lower setting, like a darker setting, so it wasn't so bright. And I'm like, he filled out. He had a very similar body build. So when he came out, I'm like, is that Farouk? And Chelsea's like, maybe. And like, no. And then they said Hacksaw Butch Reed. I'm like, oh shit. And then Ron Simmons came out actually later in the show. Anyway, getting off subject here. I can understand why people might want to put Cena. I can understand why people might want to put Bret Hart.
Yeah.
On any given day, I would put Shawn Michaels in my top 5, my favorite top 5.
Yeah.
But Undertaker is in my top 2 of all time.
Yeah.
And so this is where the first half of Undertaker's career is iconic and imagery-wise, presence-wise, presentation, unmatched. Actually, he's unmatched throughout his entire career, I think. Maybe other than the American Badass era. I'm sorry to those people out there who love that era. It's okay.
It's not us.
It's not me. He had no matches. He had nobody to work with until mid-late 90s, and then it got good, and then he really started having some good shit when he came back as the Dead Man in 04. Mm-hmm. And after that, he had some, but man, when that tail end, he put on some good shit. And of course, you got to talk about him and Shawn Michaels, those 2 WrestleManias, 25 and 26.
Yeah,
I think just long lasting. Is anybody more respected?
I don't think they're more respected.
I know that that's not the only factor we have to look at here.
He's also, to me, and I love The Undertaker, but he's almost like Andre to me as an attraction.
Yeah,
more than someone that I'd put up on Mount Rushmore. But we might differ there.
Yeah. I feel like I'd have to differ. Well, because Andre, I don't know, and I could be wrong here. Maybe not everybody feels this way, but I feel like, Andre, I would only want to see if I came to a show. I'd only want to see every now and then when somebody's trying to topple him or he's... I could watch Undertaker every night. Undertaker could go with anybody, just about. Obviously, not the really big guys who couldn't go at all.
Right.
But Undertaker had really good matches with the regular size guys and the bulkier guys, and then of course the smaller guys. But you put him in there with Austin, you put him in there with Triple H, you put him in there with Shawn Michaels. Him and Batista had an okay match. Yeah. Really, and it's Batista. Him and Ray had an okay match at Royal Rumble that year. I think it was 2010. I think Ray busted him open on that. Hurt it, like busted his nose or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like him and Bret Hart, like they have. He can go with all the best, and I don't know. Like this is, my bias is showing probably in this one. Cena. Cena's got Make-A-Wish. Cena's got longevity. He's also got the 5 moves of doom. But Cena's Hogan.
Yeah.
Cena's just a modern day Hogan. But was he as big as Hogan at the time?
Yeah, that I'm not sure about.
That's what I'm having a hard time with. Hogan is understandable.
Yeah, I don't think Cena was just
because Cena I don't think so either, because Cena, although he carried the company for those years, and he is great in his own right, he didn't have the level. He was popular, but he didn't have the level that Hogan did, and he sure as hell didn't have the level of Austin did. So if you're bringing Cena, he did his part for the PG era and Make-A-Wish and all that, but the era, to me, he's kind of like on the cusp, like Bret Hart, like you said.
Yeah,
he's the one that carried the company through some lower times, and I don't know. The only difference here is Bret Hart is a much better wrestler than Cena.
Right. And he had his own 5 moves of doom, but he could do so much more.
He can do way more.
Yeah.
So, except the distracting mouth breathing thing he used to do, where he just looked like he was dead, and he had that real thick Canadian spit.
When he take a turnbuckle.
I think I would have to put Bret Hart ahead of Cena.
Yeah. My question is, do you put Bret Hart or Randy Savage ahead of The Undertaker or The Rock? That's where I'm at right now.
You put who? Say it one more time.
Bret or Savage.
Oh, Bret or Savage. In that spot?
Yeah.
So that's what you're coming back to, is Bret and Savage?
Probably more Bret than Savage, because Bret carried an era. Savage never really had his era because he was in Hogan's era.
Yeah. He was always in Hogan's limelight, spotlight. It's kind of one of those things.
And I love that first title run that Savage had.
I do too. And that's nothing against Savage, because that was just bad timing. Everybody, Hogan knew how to play politics better, but Savage was so good. So I don't think we're in danger of Ric Flair's not in danger.
No.
Okay.
Hogan's not in danger.
I don't think so either. I don't think Steve Austin's definitely not in danger.
Our question is, do we go Bret Hart, Undertaker, or The Rock? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, because Shawn was always kind of he was kind of like the Steamboat, right? Like you said, he was the one, and he was really, really good, but he was always kind of the afterthought when it came to bigger stars.
Yeah,
he was always chasing somebody, or somebody was always better than him. Bret in this case was better than Shawn. Shawn was just a better character. He was more flamboyant. Yeah. Easier to like with the high flying spots. Bret was better. Yeah. Bret was a better guy, as far as I know. It just then you've got, oh God, yeah, man. See, like the bias in me wants to put Taker there.
Yeah,
but objectively, I think Bret.
That's the way I'm leaning.
I think Bret has to be there.
As down as business was, he carried a entire era of wrestling from.
Well, and he doesn't get enough credit for kind of helping jumpstart the Attitude Era a little bit.
Yeah.
He some of his shoot interviews out there, his promos that he did on Vince and the company, and the way things were going, were pretty legit.
Yeah.
They were pretty much shoot promos, and he kind of got more attitude on air in front of everybody before Shawn did.
Yep.
Or, Shawn did like the lost his smile bullshit. But no one knew what that meant. Everybody was just ate it up, and everybody in the back was like, well, he's sour grapes. But Bret was actually airing grievances out.
Yeah. For everybody out there, this fourth spot is the hardest one.
Sure.
It would be so easy just to say, oh, it's The Rock. Throw The Rock up.
Yeah, throw The Rock in there, because he was second biggest in the Attitude Era, right?
Yeah. But I don't think you can.
I think he's close.
I think I'm going Bret for that last spot.
Yeah,
it's with a heavy heart, because I'm not. I think he's deserving of that spot, more so than some of these other people we're talking about. Do I like the stuff from 92 to 97 better than the Cena era stuff?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Dude, Cena era stuff, it was so boring. I remember thinking even then, like, oh my God, when does it end?
Yeah.
And I didn't even hate John Cena, but I was like, oh, this is too much, man.
Yeah.
Like, this is too much. And I mean, I grew up liking Goldberg. I grew up liking all this. I didn't hate Cena. It's just so hard to watch him and Randy Orton every damn night.
Yeah. And I didn't hate early Cena, clear up until he had some really good matches with like Umaga. Remember those?
Yeah, his mid 2000s run was good.
Yeah,
it's when the HD era came in and the PG stuff started right after Benoit.
Yeah, I'd checked out.
It was really starting to go down for everybody, and him and Orton had to kind of carry everything, and there was some good here and there.
I really kind of wanted to put Benoit on this, but,
dude. One of these days I want to discuss Benoit.
Yeah.
And, today is not that day, but one of these days I do want to kind of get down into Benoit everything. I think that'd be kind of an interesting episode.
Yeah, I think so too.
It might piss some people off, and maybe it won't as far as what my opinion will be. But
I don't think there's enough people there who, I think they praise his in-ring ability. They just don't want to talk about it.
They don't want to talk about any of it because of everything that happened. And we'll get to that too. But, dude, Benoit was technically up there. Brett, I mean, when you talk about, and I know we didn't mention Eddie, but I wouldn't put him up there either, and there's no disrespect to him, but
he wasn't on top long enough.
No, he wasn't. But dude, Benoit wasn't really either. But really, if you think about it, Benoit had matches. Well, we just watched. What was it? What's 2000 when we just watched? We just reviewed.
Oh, him and Jericho.
Like that was WWF title. Wasn't it?
No,
it's Intercontinental.
I see, yeah.
But he had WWF title by the end of the year, didn't he? Or didn't he have a match?
Yeah, he had a match against The Rock.
The Rock, yeah. So this was it Fully Loaded or was it Judgment? It's Fully Loaded.
Fully Loaded.
The Judgment Day was him and Triple H.
I think he won on a technicality and it got taken away or something. Yeah.
So Benoit was already kind of in that. He was showing his chops pretty early.
Yeah.
He just didn't get his due until 2004 or whatever it was, really.
Yeah.
And that was an amazing match. That was the best triple threat match I think I've ever seen.
You watched the stuff, too, he was doing 10 years before that with, like, Two Cold Scorpios.
Yes.
WCW.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why he was in the Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to get off on a tangent. We'll talk about Benoit soon enough. But, so we're going Hogan, Flair, Austin, and Brett.
I think so.
And it's so fitting because of the Brett and Austin dynamic. Mm-hmm. They're so great on their own, but they also kind of helped each other along, especially Brett with Austin.
I think Taker could be an alternate there.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I think Taker could definitely be an alternate, and I don't think Cena's got enough to even be on the cusp for me, because I think Hogan is just so much next level, and people might have a problem with that, but Hogan is just Hogan has all the everything that Cena has, but in a bigger era.
Cena on Mount, and Mount Rushmore doesn't work for me, brother.
No, that's not. Yeah, doesn't work for me, brother. Finger poke of doom him off of there. I don't think you can. I think as far when you're talking about traveling champions in the territory days, I don't think it gets any bigger than Ric Flair. As big as Dusty and them were, I think Flair's kind of that. From the mid '90s, early mid late '90s, you've got Bret Hart, and I think Shawn might be on the cusp there, but I think Bret edges that out. And then as far as the Attitude Era, there's nobody that tops Steve Austin as much as I love The Rock, as much as I love Undertaker. That's it, and that kind of goes to show you we've got 4 eras basically. And 4 times before the Ruthless Aggression era, before the modern era.
Right.
And none of them guys made it. I just don't think Cena... There hasn't been any new big stars like Austin since Austin and The Rock.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think Cena is the closest.
I think Brock could have been if he hadn't left.
Brock could have been... Brock is huge, but it's not. He's the attraction. He's one of those unique. He's a unique dude.
Yeah,
because he's not as big as Andre. He's big in a different way.
He missed out. I guarantee you, in the Attitude Era, he missed out on 10 title runs.
Yeah,
there, or in the Ruthless Aggression Era. I mean,
I think you have so many gems in there. You know, we didn't even mention Kurt Angle.
Yeah,
there's so many gems in there that helps wrestling be what it is. But you just have those guys who are just so just the next level. And I honestly don't think that Cena is quite there. I think some people would disagree with that. Maybe people in the wrestling business would disagree with that. And I don't think Roman's there.
Yeah.
At least not yet, and I don't even know if he really will be. I think it's really cool to think about now because this is the biggest and most long-winded storyline that's been in wrestling in how long?
Oh yeah, forever.
That's actually been big. It's something where he's gotten to the level he's gotten.
But it's also being force-fed to us. It didn't happen.
It's just in a different way.
Yeah.
It's in a much different way. This is a much better way. They finally got something for Roman to stick to.
Yeah.
But okay, well, I think we can both agree on that. I think that's both of our lists. I don't think I can differ from that.
Yeah.
I think we've found a good common ground. So I think Taker's just right there on the edge. I think Shawn might be on the edge. The Rock might be on the edge. But
Triple H
may be on the edge.
Yep.
Then you got a bunch of other guys in there in the running. But yeah, I think you have to edge it to Brett just because he just, even though he just cries and bitches about everything now. he seems so
man.
Bitter and angry. But in a way, I see what he says.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Cornette. Like I get where Cornette's coming from.
Yeah.
I really do. And I've been blocked by him on Twitter. I have never even said anything to that man.
I can tell you, we both love listening to Jim Cornette's podcast.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah,
I don't even take it personally because I'm pretty sure I mouthed off to. I don't even know what I did. I think I probably just said something really sarcastic and shitty to somebody that he likes politically on Twitter.
Just the tad bit right wing.
And I think he just he was just scrolling and he saw the same thing, and I think he just randomly finds dumb comments he doesn't like and then blocks those people so he never has to see him again. He's very, very timid. He's very touchy.
Passive aggressive.
He's a psychopath, I'm pretty sure. But I'm not going to hold it against him because he has got a hilarious podcast.
Yeah,
it's very entertaining.
I enjoy it.
And I never met the guy. I don't care as much as he does. He can say it all day long. He doesn't care, but I know he does. He's just too fired up not to care about stupid shit.
He is, as we say in our line of work, a sensitive boy.
He's a sensitive boy for sure. Anyways, guys, this has probably been long enough, but I don't even know if we're going to make this into a podcast or not, or maybe a bonus episode because it's pretty long for a video. We might, I don't know, I'll throw it out there. But
3 and 4 took a while.
It did. It was rough, and when you're not prepared and you're just kind of talking it out on video, it's a little bit rougher.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had a lot of fun. Anyways, guys, I hope you all like this. We will be coming out with an episode 2 of our podcast soon. We've actually got King of the Ring 96 that we're going to talk about. We just covered Beware of Dog in Your House 8. And we're gonna roll through this all the way to
Brandon's dog comes up to the table.
Yeah, Beware of Dog. Beware of Dog. She's tired. She's ready to get it over with too. So, all right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time.